Okay, so today is December the 19th, 2024, and we're going to get into some news. Okay, so I haven't heard much of this being reported in the Western media. In fact, I haven't heard it reported at all. I'm sure that it has been, but I have not seen it. And what we have is that Russia announced that it has developed a vaccine for cancer. So I'm going to read to you, and this is coming from the Times of India website. I'm going to read to you some of the article. It says Russia has developed its own cancer vaccine to be distributed free of charge, news agency. And I think that Times of India, they're an excellent source of news, even though sometimes they can be a little pro-Western to me at times. But they are a great source of news, and I think they took the information from the TASS website, which is that's a Russian state-owned media website. So it says, in what can be said to be the discovery of the century, the Russian government says that it has developed its own cancer vaccine. The vaccine is expected to be launched in early 2025. Russia has announced its own mRNA vaccine against cancer. It would be distributed to patients free of charge. General Director of the Radiology Medical Research Center of the Russian Ministry of Health, Andrei Kapin, has told Radio Rossiya, Russian news agency TASS has reported. Okay. The vaccine's preclinical trials has shown that it suppresses tumor development and potential metastasis. Director of the Gamma, who is one of those Russian words, Gamaleya National Research Center for Epidemiology, Epidemiology and Microbiology, Alexander Ginsburg, told TASS. Yeah, those scientific words be something else. Earlier this year, Russian President Vladimir Putin said in a televised comment that we have come very close to the creation of so-called cancer vaccines and immunomodulatory drugs of a new generation. So that's huge news for people, all over the world who are living and suffering from cancer, or living in countries like the United States where nothing is free, or the medical industry is one big profit gutting werewolf. But anyway, it says AI can develop vaccines in an hour. Amidst vaccine trials, Ginsburg told the media that the use of artificial neural networks could bring down the duration of computing required to create a personalized cancer vaccine, which is currently a lengthy process, to less than an hour. Now it takes quite long to build personalized vaccines because computing how a vaccine or customized mRNA should look like uses matrix methods in mathematical terms. We have involved the Ivanikov Institute, which will rely on AI in doing this math, namely neural network computing, where these procedures should take about half an hour to an hour, Russia's vaccine chief said. So I'm going to leave it there, but I just, I think it's a very positive development. I did see one article, and of course it's in one of these Western newspapers where researchers are skeptical of the claims made by Russia. But one thing I can say about the Russians: rarely do they tell lies. And I follow Russian news sources. I follow a lot of news sources outside of America, and when the Russians say something, they stand on it, unlike the Americans. So anyway, let's move on to our next story. Now this story, this story here is gonna again, it's gonna take us back to Syria. And if you've been following the conflict in Syria, particularly over the last 2 weeks, have you seen how many strikes the Israeli government has conducted inside of Syria against military targets and infrastructure? Have you saw this? Well, if you've been following the conflict, I'm sure you saw it. But something, the last couple of days, I was sitting back and something just didn't feel right. I'm like, the Israeli military is literally wiping out all vestiges of the old Syrian army. There's a lot of people, Syria no longer exists as a governing state. I mean, you don't have a landmass, but, it doesn't have a government. So, Syria is just a landmass. It no longer exists. It's not a functioning country anymore, thanks to the West. But something just didn't sit right with me. I'm like, man, they're carrying out just too many strikes. It's like they never conducted those strikes before in the manner in which they did, right? So I ran across this article off of Task. And again, Task is a Russian news agency, right? And it's this particular article right here was printed on December the 17th. And it says, Assad allegedly hands a list of military targets over to Israel before leaving Syria. And when I read that, I was like, I knew something was, I knew it was something up, right? Because Israel has never conducted those type of strikes in such a precise manner before in Syria. Yeah, they done hit Syria, they hit them with precision munitions, but never on this scale and magnitude, right? So let's get into the article. And this is coming from Ankara, which is the capital of Texas. I mean, not Texas, the capital of Turkey, not Texas. Okay, so the article reads, it says, former Syrian President Bashar Assad allegedly provided the coordinates of the country's military targets to Israel before his departure to ensure his own safety. Abdullah Selvi, a commentator for Turkey's Hurriyet newspaper, stated, according to the commentator, a reliable source informed him that Assad had allegedly given a list indicating the location of weapons, depots, missile systems, and warplanes as a guarantee that Israel would not target him during his flight. Selvi believes that, considering the precision strikes, that's what I'm saying, considering the precision strikes Israel later carried out on targets in Syria, the information provided by the source does not appear to be fabricated. The commentator also mentioned that there are some details surrounding Assad's departure from Syria, which particularly concern Israel's role, and Selvi will disclose them in due course. In late November, I don't want to read all of this, but it's a short paragraph. In late November, armed opposition groups launched a large-scale offensive on positions held by Syrian government forces. On December the 8th, they entered Damascus, which is the capital of Syria, causing government troops to withdraw from the capital. Bashar Assad resigned as Syrian president and left the country. On December the 10th, Mohammed al-Bashar, who had led the so-called Syrian Salvation Government in the Idlib province since January 2024, announced his appointment as head of Syrian interim government. The interim period is expected to last until March the 1st, 2025. And I'm still confused as to who this Jelani dude is. Who, for all points and purposes, they said that he led the rebels, and in overthrowing the government, led them on the march to Damascus. But who is this guy? I mean, who are you? Are you a CIA operative? I mean, I'm getting all kind of conflicting information as to exactly who this guy is. So I'm confused. I mean, I don't know. You know, it was a report that came out said he was a CIA agent. Another report said he was controlled by the Mossad. You know, and we know that Erdogan, he never misses an opportunity to advance his interests. We know that the rebels are being heavily supported and funded by Turkey. So, who is this dude, man? You know, Trump just doubled down and said that the $10 million bounty that was posted on his head years ago still stands. So, you know, he has a USA bounty on his head. But who is this guy? I mean, you haven't marched on Israel like you said. They never would have made it anyway. But you know, you said Israel was the next target on the list. The war is still going on in Gaza. Over 50,000 Palestinians have been brutally murdered by the Zionist regime over in Israel. So, you know, it appears now that you know, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it appears that the Palestinians have once again been sold out. And that's just me, you know, who am I? I'm a nobody. But I'm on the outside looking in. You know, there's a fragile truce that was, you know, initiated between Israel and Hezbollah. Hamas is still doing this thing. You know, they still waging the war of liberation over in that part of the world, Gaza and over in the West Bank. But Hezbollah, who suffered major setbacks. I mean, I you know, I can say this time that Israel came out on top with the confrontation with Hezbollah, right? Took out a lot of their top leadership. I mean, just, you know, Hezbollah, you know, as a guerrilla army, it did what it could do, but they were on the receiving end of a butt kicking this time. So, you know, I can say that Israel came out on top with that clash, but it's a fragile truce holding between Hamas and Israel. So, I mean, not Hamas, but Hezbollah and Israel. So, Hezbollah really isn't in the fight now. Syria is destroyed. So, a lot of weapons and munitions that was flowing through Syria to Hezbollah, that's not happening now, right? So it appears that the only people who are standing up militarily for the Palestinians, one, Hamas, and two, the Houthis. And that's the American Western term that they call it, the Houthis. So all of the powerful Arab countries, or Muslim countries, you know, Saudi Arabia, I mean, just all of them, man. It's just, I mean, Egypt, I mean, they really just stood by and just watched the Palestinians get slaughtered. They stood by and watched as Israel moved an entire population from Gaza south toward Israel, and now they're doing the same thing in the West Bank. Just moved an entire population, over 2-3 million people, just depopulated them in 1 year. They did nothing. Egypt could have sent its military in. Saudi Arabia could have sent its military in. The Muslim countries, they could have done better by the Palestinians, man. You know, but yeah. So back to Syria though. But the way the Israeli military, the IDF, conducted these airstrikes, if Assad did not hand them over the coordinates to these military targets, somebody did. Somebody high within military leadership of the Syrian army did. So that's the situation over in Syria. I just thought I would, bring that to your attention. I know today might be a boring segment, but we got tomorrow come up. We got tomorrow coming, and I got a surprise for y'all at the end of this video. But let's get back to. Let's quickly go over to the war in Ukraine, and let's get to this segment here, right? So, I'm sure we've all heard by now that a senior Russian general, lieutenant general, was killed by the secret services of Ukraine, right? He was assassinated in Moscow. And let me find the article real quick. And the reason why I'm reading this article is because, remember, Ukraine is a proxy that's fighting on behalf of the United States and the West, right? The United States says that, that it's a staunch supporter against terrorism. But they've allowed for the Ukrainians, time and time again, to conduct terrorist activities and attacks within Russia itself, right? So this is the latest one. And this article again comes from TASS, and the senior Russian general, his aide killed in Moscow blast. Okay. This happened on the 17th. So it says, Chief of Russia's Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Protection Troops, Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, and his aide were killed in a blast in southeastern Moscow on Tuesday morning. The blast caused by an explosive device that had been planted in an electric scooter. Remember about them cell phones. An electric scooter. Spokeswoman for the Russian Investigative Committee, Svetlana Petrenko, said. On the morning of December the 17th, an explosive device planted in a scooter went off near a residential building entrance on Ryazansky Avenue in Moscow, the investigation showed. Chief of Russia's Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Protection Troops, Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, and his aide were killed in the explosions, he said. According to Petrenko, the committee's Moscow department has launched a criminal probe into the attack. Circumstances behind the crime are currently being investigated. So this article was written on December 17th. We know that, someone has been taken into custody for the act itself. But it just goes to show you the hypocrisy of the West. Now, can you imagine if a general had been killed in the same way inside the United States? What do you think the United States reaction would be? What do you think it would be? Right? So you sit up and you champion the cause against terrorism, but you guys knew that this general was going to be assassinated. At least the CIA did. They knew it. And they allowed it to happen. This is why the world is turning against you. This is why you are losing your power in the international scene. This is why every time the word democracy is mentioned in certain parts of the world, it just brings a sour taste into people's mouths, because you guys don't believe in democracy. It's a smokescreen that you hide behind. If you believed in democracy and human rights, you wouldn't be here in America, microwaving some of your own citizens. So, go on with the cap, right? So I just thought I would just bring it up, food for thought. The hypocrisy of the West. So, do we want to get into any more stories today? Excuse me, I'm still up under the weather. And it's done got cold down here in Tennessee again. Right, and I'm outside in the backyard because, you know, I can do my thing out here. Rocco, sit down before you get sent to the front line. Move. Look at this dog, man. What? Here. Everybody wants to see you be out there making all that noise. They want to see you now. Here, look at the camera. You see that right there? That's Rocco. Meaner than a snake. Move. Okay, so do I want to get into this last article? Let me see here. I think today I will. Rocco, what's wrong with you? Let me see here. Might get into one more article. Or we might not. Yeah, we'll just make this a short video today. But I don't know if any of you guys watch Alex Christoforou. You know, he's one of the teammates to Alexander Mercurius over at the Duran. And each one, you know, they have a collective show, and then they each have their individual shows, right? So Alex Christoforou, so he's funny as hell, but he always ends his segment with a clown world, right? So let me see if I can explain clown world to you. It's kind of like, you know, the unbelievable. You know, somebody make a statement, and the statement is just so unbelievable that, you know, you turn it into a funny clown world. Okay, so I think I'm gonna borrow that science of journalism, and I'm gonna start coming with the JCat segment, right? Now, if you were in California, which JCats, you know, that's California slang, right? Particularly California prison slang. But I'm gonna go ahead and give you the definition of a JCat. Let me see here. Definition of a JCat. Here we go. So we're gonna start having JCat segments at the end of my podcast. Okay. So this is overview. JCat is a prison slang term for an inmate who is mentally ill or disruptive, right? Now let's just skip. You know, I don't make fun of people with mental illness, right? But let's get to the definition of a JCat, right? It says a commonly used phrase in California prisons indicating a mentally unstable person or someone whom is intentionally or unintentionally acting mentally unstable. Okay, that is one meaning of JCat. Okay, let me see here. So we got the prison slang guide, right? I mean, but you know, you get the gist of what I'm trying to say, right? So what I'm trying to say is we're going to start having JCat moments, right? Where someone does something so preposterous, so, you know, so boggling to the mind that they're going to make the JCat list. And we're probably going to start that tomorrow because I already have one for you. But, you know, my notes, again, you know, I've been unorganized lately. So my notes aren't what they need to be. But tomorrow we're going to start getting into the JCat segments. So I think that's it for the news today. I don't think I'll be making another video. But like and subscribe, and man, start leaving some comments, man. Like I say, in a couple of years, this channel is going to be one of the largest informative channels in Black social network. That's I truly believe that, right? So until then, we're going to end this video. It's almost at 25 minutes, and I have rambled long enough, so we're going to end it today. But peace out. We'll be back mañana with the JCat segment.